What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we got another day, another Piers Morgan uncensored debate coming in for you guys today. And guess what, folks? We got a neocon on the panel. That is right. So you're going to hear a lot of crap coming out of my freaking mouth about this because I can't stand these neocons, man. They give conservatives a very, very bad name. To me, they're just as bad as the corporate left, the woke politics, the identitarian left. I just can't stand some of these people. They just sully the name of the American citizen, if you ask me. They sully the America First movement outright. They are not true conservatives, because true conservatives don't want war. We don't want to fund all this garbage. We want to be left alone. We want to prosper in peace, and that's about it. But these people, they don't want that. They think the United States should be the damn world police, and it gets under my skin like nothing else. So let's go ahead and get into the clips.
I know you don't agree here. I am genuinely, it is very surprising how the politics of this kind of thing have changed so dramatically. It would have been unthinkable 30 years ago to have a conversation with conservatives on the airways where they would talk this way, I think, about this. I'm not saying, by the way, that Benny's wrong, and I'm not saying he's not right, that a lot of Americans agree with him. But how do you feel about it?
Conservatives really had their act together in the George W. Bush years, right, everybody?
Right. Yeah, I mean, what's your view of this?
They were really great back then.
So, Piers, I'm going to defer to your former UK Prime Minister, who stated this week that there's this segment of the Republican Party that has a weird homoerotic fixation on Putin. They love his tough guy image. They love his tough guy politics. Doesn't appeal to me, but it does appeal to a certain segment of the Republican Party. And to bring up the neocons and what happened 20, 25 years ago, I didn't support the Iraq War. I was 19 in 2003. And I'm firmly in support of this war, supporting Ukraine, because this is a generational fight. History is repeating itself. All the claims that Putin is making about Russian speakers in the Donbass region and past territorial claims, it's the exact same argument that Hitler made in World War II, going into the Rhineland and then Czechoslovakia and, of course, Poland. And the other panel member talking about America First, we had an America First movement in 1938, 1939, 1940 to keep the United States out of World War II. I don't want to go to war. I don't like war. But sometimes democratic nations aren't given a choice. What is happening today has never happened since the advent of nuclear weapons. A nuclear-powered state has said, this territory used to belong to us. We want it back. Give it to us because we have nuclear weapons. This is not something the Western Alliance or the international community can tolerate. Nuclear states talking about historical claims, saying, give us back territory that once belonged to us, otherwise we're going to nuke you. Day 2 of this full-scale invasion, and we just went over 1,000 days. Day 2, Putin raised the equivalent of his DEFCON, saying, don't help Kyiv. Don't give any assistance, otherwise we might use nukes. And for 1,000 days, they haven't used nukes because they can't. I can lay out the arguments why, but this is not tolerable because it'll never end. If this works, it will embolden dictators around the world, the first group who already have nukes, to start talking about historical claims because they know the international community is not going to stop them, and any dictators that want to go and get back historical territory, they're going to want nukes. And for any smaller country who doesn't feel defended by the international community, they're also going to want nukes now, because the United States, France, UK, the democratic countries that have nuclear weapons are not going to help them. Okay. They're not going to defend them.
Okay.
So here we go. Here the argument is, oh, if we don't stop Putin now, he's just going to roll into all the NATO countries. This is one of the most absurd arguments I think I've ever heard, and I've never heard a good counter argument to this, thinking that Vladimir Putin has the ability to roll into NATO, right? Like, this is just ridiculous to think about. Okay, so how come he hasn't rollen over Kyiv yet? How come he hasn't taken the entire country out yet? They've been there for 3 years, just about. And he hasn't done it yet? So you can't have both arguments at the same time. Oh, he's going to take over the entirety of Europe. We've got to stop him here in Ukraine. Well, how come he hasn't done that yet? Because he's not trying to conquer Ukraine. He's not trying to conquer Poland in none of these places. We can see that. It's plain as day. But this is what the argument is from these people. And then he's talking about this homoerotic fixation with Putin. I haven't met the first person who's had this weird fixation with Putin. Everybody that I've ever talked to say he's an evil scumbag dictator. Nobody likes him. We don't like this. We don't like the fact that he rolled into Ukraine. But what are we going to do about it? We are the United States. We are not Ukraine. It is not our job to police other nations. I'm sorry. There's no constitution in the world. It's not in our constitution. It's not in the UN Charter. None of these things. For us to be the world police, and I don't think we should be doing it, especially at a time when we're funding a war to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, and we have people in our own country that are struggling to get by. I don't like this. When we're spending in a $1.8 trillion deficit, this is outright absurdity. But these people and their arguments, oh, we need to be there. We need to fund this war. We did blah, 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 blah. It's funding our military-industrial complex. Who gives a damn about that? Maybe we need to cut back some of the funding from our military-industrial complex. Maybe we don't need to fund a war. The thing is, right, I don't have much problem with helping another nation defend their democracy. However, if we're not trying to stop the fighting, we're just continually shipping weapons over there, supplying them with anything and everything they need at the drop of a dime, pretty much giving them a blank check to do whatever the hell they want to. I have a major problem with that when we're not trying to stop it. We're not sending negotiators to go stop this, right? There was a peace deal that was being put together right at the beginning of this thing, and what did they do? They sacked it and said, no, we're going to fight to the bloody end. Hang on. Our soldiers aren't being sent over there to die. We're sacrificing Ukraine so we can defend democracy. That's what we're doing. And I don't like it one bit. Not when there's other solutions to this problem. But let's keep going and see what else they have to say, because we certainly have a circus here as well, just like yesterday's video.
This is America forcing the issue, and as everyone on this panel knows, the status quo in Crimea held from 1991 all the way through 2014 until America overthrew the government there for the second time, and the new government.
America did not overthrow the governments. You can look at the crowds.
Oh, shut up, man. You know what? We heard your piece. They immediately threatened to kick the Russians out of the Sevastopol naval base. Only then did the Russians change the status quo on the Crimean Peninsula, which, by the way, belonged to Russia since the 1780s, since before the American Constitution was
So did Alaska. Should we give Alaska back?
Anyway, this guy's an idiot. But if you want me to keep talking with you, Piers, I'll happily
finish your point.
You know, this guy sounds. I'll tell you what. With this guy talking about, oh, we just have to help them win. That's what they said for 20 years in Afghanistan. We just have to help the Tajiks and the Hazaras and the Uzbeks crush the Pashtuns. And once we're done, it'll be great. We can't sell them out now. We can't leave now. And then what happened? Hundreds of thousands of people killed, and they lost anyway. And everyone knows it's in the Wall Street Journal. It's in the Council on Foreign Relations Journal, Foreign Affairs. Even Richard Haas, the former president of the CFR, has a new piece in Foreign Affairs saying, give it up. We know that there's nothing America can do to help Ukraine retake the Donbass, Zaporozhye, Kherson, Crimea. They can't, unless you want to call in the B-2s and the B-52s and the U.S. Navy, at which point we have a general war. So the war is lost. So this guy can bloviate all he wants about how, no, it would be wrong to turn our back now. The Russians haven't even launched a full-scale mobilization in their country. This is a police action to them, while the Ukrainians are already running out of men, and Jake Sullivan is demanding that they increase conscription. That is slavery. On behalf of a war, we're looking at antiwar.com today. We have the
Russia
headline.
has conscription.
The majority of Ukrainians want to negotiate. There's your democracy for you. The majority of Ukrainians know that what I just said is true. Even Yulia Tymoshenko a year ago said it's time to negotiate.
Okay.
This guy's a fool.
Okay, well, before I go to General Kimmett, again, I want to just get Jake to just respond to that, because you're a fool, apparently.
Well, according to this guy, democratic revolutions are never possible. We had one in this country in
What are you
1776.
talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?
Wow. Okay. You got some
I
anger
didn't say it was
issues, man.
never possible. America spent $100 million to overthrow the government in Ukraine.
These guys
That's
on this
not a
panel are
democratic
arguing that the
revolution.
people of the former
That's
Soviet
Barack
republics
Obama
have
and
no
Joe
right to
Biden overthrowing
self-determination.
the government there.
They're saying that as soon as
Give me a
Putin installs
break.
a strong man in any of these countries that remains corrupt and loyal to him, change is never possible. Viktor Yanukovych was not killed. He was not imprisoned. He fled. He fled back to Russia. He fled back to his masters. And in my opinion,
So
when you're the
what'd that have to do
president of
with
a country and you
because
flee the
America
country,
spent $100 million
you gave up your
overthrowing
power.
him. Look, man.
Okay, so if I'm being serious here. I genuinely want to understand the conspiracy that the United States is behind the color revolutions of these Soviet
you've never heard
republics.
of the National Endowment for
Because
Democracy, huh?
When Russia invaded, why did we offer them a ride? Why the delay in tanks? Why the delay in HIMARS? Why the delay in Patriot systems? Why the delay in F-16s? Why are we just giving approval for ATACMS this week after 1,000 days of the war if the conspiracy always was the United States was trying to separate Ukraine from Russia, that we're trying to install a CIA-backed government or whatever? I don't understand this conspiracy when we haven't done everything to fully support Ukraine.
Okay,
Can you explain this to me? Because I don't understand.
Okay, let me just time out.
Yes, I can explain it to you very simply. It's a battle of soft power. Russia lost that battle, as a matter of fact. Like, this guy's never heard of CIA-backed coups. As if American citizens haven't been prosecuted for this. This is absurd coming from this guy, okay? Russia lost the soft battle, the soft power battle, okay? So then they had to send in the tanks. And what do? We don't want to make it overt. That's why there's covert operations in this country and abroad. That's why we send our CIA agents out into the world. That's why CIA is not allowed to operate within the United States, because that's not their job. Their job is to work outside of the United States, okay? We wanted Ukraine because we're trying to suck up all the power we can. It was a soft power battle. Russia lost, so they had to send in the tanks. Now, we don't want to make it overt. We can't just send them everything all at once. It's got to be a slow drip of everything. This guy's got his conspiracy theories mixed all up. Don't know what the hell he's talking about. And I commend him, though, because it's really hard to defend sending men and women to die, sending billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to fund a war that we shouldn't even be involved with, considering the fact that we're not trying to stop it. We're not trying to send negotiators to go and stop this damn thing. Okay? They want resources. Everybody's vying for resources. That's pretty much what every war is always about, is resources, land, you name it, whatever. Russia wants control of that little bitty land bridge to Crimea so they can have access to the Black Sea. Simple as that. And we want to cut that off because we want to be the ones with the power. We want to control everything in this world because we're the world's police. And I don't buy that. I don't buy into that whatsoever. Can't stand these people. Once again, they get under my skin like nothing else. Thinking as if, Russia just invaded for no apparent reason. They're not going to do that. I'm sorry. Like the guy said, this is a police action to them. This is definitely a police action to the Russians. That's how they're justifying this. Is they're going in, they're liberating their own people. I don't buy that either. I don't buy none of this garbage. Once again, soft power. They lost. They couldn't influence the area enough to get what the hell they wanted out of this, to get resources flowing from Russia to wherever the hell they wanted to go. Once again, that's all this is about, is just resources. But you love how they were talking about Alaska and all this. Oh, why didn't Russia just take back Alaska? Well, because we bought that, dude. What? We purchased Alaska. We're not just going to give it back. This guy is absurd, but let's keep going because we got some more circus.
First. And we have big hearts, with the biggest hearts in the world to help out those in need. But we are sick and tired of being sold out for endless wars, and you just listed many of them. For my generation, which is millennial, it's Iraq and Afghanistan. And how did we leave Afghanistan? With 13 body bags. In an avoidable, chaotic, disastrous, nightmarish, suicidal mission that got us effing nothing, Piers. And we're sick of it.
Jake, your response to that?
America's not fighting this war. There's no American forces on the ground in Ukraine fighting this war for Ukraine. So just keep saying this is America's war. America shouldn't be fighting this war.
With
American soldiers are
on
not
our children, sir.
Concerning all of the past wars that America has been involved in, we can't overlook the Cold War. Is the world better off today because of the collapse of the Soviet Union? Is the world better off today with the Kremlin and the Russians weakened? The 14 Soviet republics that broke away,
question.
some of them have gone through peaceful democratic revolutions.
Is the world better off
Look at the economic
USSR?
miracle of Eastern
deep,
Europe
dude.
and all these countries joining the EU, joining NATO. Do any of them want to return back to the Russian sphere of influence? What this war is about is, does Ukraine have the right of self-determination? And other people on this panel are saying no, because the Russians have nukes, because we don't want confrontation with Russia. If Russia wants to go into Kiev and install a puppet regime and basically absorb it back into their empire, like they've done with Belarus, they've got troops in Transnistria, they've got troops in Syria, they've got troops in Georgia. The pattern keeps repeating, and Putin's never going to stop. He's dictator for life. He could potentially live another 20 years. These wars are never going to end. When you look at the stuff they're teaching their kids in Russian schools, they're preparing them for war for the next 20 decades. Putin wants his empire back, and I'm going to continue arguing that is not in the best interest of America. A resurgent Soviet Russian empire dominating Central Asia, dominating the Caucasus, dominating Eastern Europe, committing acts of hybrid warfare all the time. The Russians, with impunity, are poisoning people, destroying underwater cables, conducting cyber attacks. When is America going to say is enough? We're not going to let Russia have their empire back. And it's pennies. The billions that we've sent in old equipment, we're spending the money here in the United States. Defense production is ramping up here to rebuild our industrial base, to keep the world safer. Peace through strength. That's the legacy of Ronald Reagan, and I don't know why I have to remind Republicans of what Ronald Reagan achieved, defeating the evil empire. And I don't understand the people on this panel who are saying, let Russia have it, let Russia obtain this population, these people, their resources, and then go to the next war. Okay. Poland, the Baltics, Finland, Moldova. It's never going to end unless we stop it.
Okay, enough about the absurdity of Russia blowing up their own pipeline. All right, there's evidence to show that that was Ukraine. There's a guy admitted that he's done that. A group of Ukrainians admitted that they did that. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about with Russia blowing up their own pipeline. That's absurd and ridiculous. It makes absolutely no sense. This is definitely Ukraine doing this. Who else would do it besides the United States? Because that pipeline had nothing to do with Ukraine, as a matter of fact, and had everything to do with Russia. That pipeline was servicing Germany and Europe, as a matter of fact. But once again, he gets into this, oh, but they're not going to stop with Ukraine. Well, you know, they haven't shown the ability to go any further past where they've gone. I don't believe you, my guy. How come there's zero evidence to show that, oh, he's not going to stop with Ukraine. He's going to keep going into Europe and Poland and all these other places. There's zero evidence. There's no proof. There's nothing whatsoever to show that he's going to do this. I'm sick and tired of these arguments that we need to fund this war to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars to stop what's going on in Ukraine. Once again, he's talking about we need to be the world police. Oh, it's not a good idea to have Russian soldiers in Syria and all over the world. Well, how come we're not holding the United States to that same exact standard, my guy? That's hypocrisy at its finest right there. We've got army bases all over the freaking world. We've got, 700 army bases outside of the United States? That's absurd. We are not the world's police. We don't get to dictate to Russia what they can and cannot do. Now, we can hold them accountable for what they do. And I sure as hell hope that by the end of this war, we do hold Vladimir Putin accountable for illegally invading Ukraine. Because you can't just invade another sovereign country. Hey, I stand with him on that. I don't stand for funding a war. He says we're not involved. That's a lie. That's an outright lie. We've got, I don't know how many volunteers are fighting in Ukraine, American citizens volunteering to go over there and fight this war. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of American citizens. They've got people from all over the world. Why? Because Ukraine is running out of soldiers. They've been punched through the freaking meat grinder over there, which is absurd. They should have brought this war to a stop, right? At this point, it's definitely looking like Ukraine's not going to be able to hold on to some of its territory. What are we going to do about that? Huh? Like it says, it's either we allow them to cede territory, or it's just full-scale war. That's what it's come down to. And that's what Putin wanted. Once again, he wanted a land bridge. That's all he wanted. He doesn't have conquest on his mind. He's not thinking about bringing back the Soviet Union, for crying out loud, pushing their borders all the way up to Germany. That's absurd to think. This guy's not arguing in the realm of reality. He's arguing some made-up garbage that we should be the world police and that everybody else is bent on conquest. It's absurd. I can't stand these arguments. These people are just nuts. And I don't think we need to be funding war if at the same time we're not trying to stop it. I'll say that over and over and over again. That is my position. How come we're not trying to bring a halt to all of this? We're not trying to stop the war in Gaza either. They are hell-bent on eliminating Hamas. Hey, whatever. Get rid of terrorist organizations. I'm right there with you. I just think they need to cut out the civilian deaths. They need to stop the indiscriminate bombings, right? Which, that needs to happen all across the world. This whole situation in Ukraine is just getting out of hand. Allowing the attackums is a line in the sand that should never have been crossed, right? Long-range missiles striking deep in Russian territory. The Ukrainians do not have the ability to launch precise strikes deep into Russia. They have to rely on United States technology, our GPS satellites, and our intelligence to strike into Russia. That's insane. And to think we're not helping. Dude, get out of here. You're living in a delusional world. We don't need to be the world police. We don't need to be feeding intelligence data, giving them the missiles, and just allowing them to fire these missiles. This is insane what's going on. They're playing with World War III. Nobody wants this. And they're going to push Russia into a corner, and then the nukes are going to start flying. That's the fear, right? I don't think that's going to happen. Because I think somebody has got to stop with the escalation. And it's just insane for what Joe Biden has done. Has pushed and pushed and pushed in this war. It's just pushed, escalated, escalated, escalated. Further and further. Oh, we need to defend democracy, y'all. You need to shut up, Biden. You need to shut up. We're not defending any democracy whatsoever. I've said it before, Ukraine is not a democracy. When you consolidate all your media into a state-run media, that's not a democracy. When you don't have religious freedom, that's not a democracy. Sorry. It's just not how democracies work. This is just all getting out of hand, and I cannot wait for Trump to come in and stop this war. Right? Put the right people in the right places to get this war to a halt, to stop the killing, to stop the murder, to stop the funding of this thing, and maybe get some sort of peace deal going. Work something out. Right? Nobody's going to be satisfied. Nobody's going to be satisfied with the end result. But that's what a compromise means. Right? We need a compromise. Then we need to hold Putin to account. We need to retain all these sanctions. He needs to be accountable for what he's done. Seriously. I have no problems with saying that. He needs to be held to account. I think he needs to be taken out of power, if you ask me. If you ask me, the Russians need to vote this guy out because he's playing with fire as well. coming from that perspective. He's playing with nuclear war. He's playing with the destruction of Russia. He's calculating that the West isn't going to do nothing about him taking a little bit of territory. Once again, he's not hell-bent on conquest, for crying out loud. I'll say that again. There's no evidence for it. But I think I've made my point quite clear on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Y'all don't forget, do me a big favor and smash that like button if you like this video. And subscribe if you're new around here. I cover news, I cover politics. I keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does that we don't like what they're doing. And that will include the Trump administration. I have no problems talking bad about Donald Trump when he makes a mistake. But y'all stay in tune, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new around here, share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. I would greatly appreciate that. And y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.